Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you this fine, beautiful morning?
Good. If I'm being honest, it's a little cloudy and it's just kind of making me a little sleepy. So I'm a little tired.
Did you say a little sleepy?
Yeah.
You know it's 6:30 in the morning. You just woke up.
I didn't just wake up, but yeah, it's a little cloudy, one of those gloomy, cloudy, gray days.
I wonder if it's going to be cooler.
Well, as of right now, the my weather bug says no, it's not going to be cooler.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
All
Hopefully this will
right.
clear off soon and sun will come out, but we'll see.
There you go. We will indeed see. We will indeed
We'll
see.
just enjoy the day either way,
Make it a great day, for sure.
for sure.
It's my allergy season, and I have struggles even to see the screen with my eyes the way they are. But,
You're muted.
oh, sorry. I say it's allergy
There you
season,
go.
and it's hard for me even to see the screen when my eyes are like they are. It's that time of year.
I know. We love this time of year, right? I was trying to think, if we move someplace where your allergies wouldn't bother you, I'm not really sure where that would be.
I don't know where it would be either. I'd have to, maybe Hawaii. I don't know.
Oh, maybe someplace frozen all the time, and I don't think we want to do that.
I can't live where it's frozen. That would not be good. All right.
Yeah.
So, Rebecca, what is our topic for the day?
So our topic this morning is going from knowing to learning. And, and as I learned this weekend, uh, that is kind of a big thing.
So, what do you mean knowing to learning? Wouldn't you have to learn something to know something?
Yeah, you do. I mean, we learn all kinds of stuff as we're growing up and we're going through school, and as we go through life, we learn things, or we're taught things or told things. And so as we take that, we think we know, but it's one of those things that I think you need to think deeper into as you grow. Um, so what we think we may know may not be true. So that's where the learning comes in. Because I know sometimes some of the things that we have learned along the way in life, we get set in our ways and we're adamant that that's the way it is. And that's not always the truth.
So you could almost say from knowing to growing, right?
Yeah.
Because if we get stuck in the knowing phase, this is something that I've seen in the industry that we work in a lot. It's like we know this. We know this. We know how to do this. We know it. We know it. We know it. And we've been on it for years. And I don't think this is any different than any other industry. Would be my guess. And we've worked with manufacturing. We've worked with in the water. We've worked in agriculture. We've worked in sales spaces. How many times have you heard people say, "Well, this is what we do." This is just what we've always done, and this is how we've always done it, and this is what we know, this is what is right, this is what is good. And we get stuck in that paradigm of the fact that we feel like we know so much. We know it, and if we're going to change it, there may be a chance that there's something we don't know, or there maybe have to be something that has to change. And it causes us a lot of anxiety. Actually, it causes us a lot of stress. And at the end of the day, I think we have to learn a process for change because, dear, what I see in your statement, from knowing to learning, there's a space there that says, uh, I may have to change something because just like in our 6 steps of personal development, you can't stop at learning. If you're going to learn but not implement, the learning was for naught. So it's very,
Right.
very important that we understand that if I know something today and I'm going to learn something, I need to implement and keep growing. From knowing to growing is kind of the way I look at this. So where would you like to take this morning? I mean, this is a great subject. This is an awesome subject, Rebecca. So where's the direction that you see this going?
Well, it's one of those things that trying not to get stuck. Um, so like years ago, I knew how to run a push button phone with the cord on it, and things changed and I had to learn something different. I had to go from that to, the cordless phone to, and so it's not, we, like I said, we get kind of stuck in the knowing of what we know instead of being open to learning maybe a more efficient, maybe a more effective um, way of doing things.
So you've had some experience with that.
Once or twice, yes.
Okay, well let's dive deep into it, Rebecca, because it's like one of the discussions that we had this weekend is what is true, right? What is true? And is there are there foundational elements of things that we have to change or at least test ourselves against and say, is what I have always known, is it absolutely true? And can that actually change and still be true? Can you have change and still be true? Can you improve something? Can you make something better and it still be true? I mean, it sounds like a ridiculous question, but it needs to be answered. Can you hold integrity and make changes? Can you hold character and make changes? Can you continue to build and grow on something and make changes and it still be good? It still be amazing and improve, improve, improve. Change to change is not just for, you should not change just to change, but you should change for improvement. You should change for growth. You should be willing to learn something for the purpose of moving yourself, your audience, your customers, your connections in any way, shape, or form to move them forward and upward in life. That's really what we should be thinking about. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely. And it's kind of like we talk with personal growth. You can't just stop. You have to keep going. And I think that's the same thing. We can't just stop at what we know and leave it at that for the rest of our lives as we continue to, as the world changes, as things change in the world, as more technology is developed and or more um what do I want to say, more advanced things are being developed in any industry. We can't just stop of what we know so far in this life and go, okay, well, what we know we're good with. We're done. We're hitting that wall. We have to be able to continue to learn and grow through that.
Well, absolutely. So when you think about that, whether it's technology, whether it's our thinking, whether it's our team members, whether it's our business models, we have to continue to evolve and grow. We should be getting better, and then as soon as we get better, we should be targeting another best, right? The one of the lessons I talked on many years ago is betterment is better than best. And if you are always looking to be better, you're never going to be the best, because you know that even if you're number one, even if you're the leader in your industry, if you're looking to be better every single day, you're never going to hit your best, because you're always going to be improving, you're always going to be growing, you're always going to be moving to that next level. But that requires us to learn something, implement something that we know to be true, and then intentionally challenging that, and intentionally saying, what can I do now? I've learned this far. What can I do next? How do I make it to the next level? And we have to, as leaders, continue to ask ourselves that. If we don't continue to ask ourselves that, we will stop. We will stop. And as soon as we stop, that's when everybody else, that's when our competition, that's when everybody else starts to move ahead of us, is because we've stopped in asking ourselves the questions of, how do I get better? How do I get better? And as soon as we ask that, we stop asking the question, how do I get better? Then we deserve to lose that front line. We deserve to lose that. If we catch ourselves, if we look back at, one of the ways to think about this is, if you look back at your results from 3 years ago, and your results today are similar to what they were 3 years ago, there's a problem. There's a problem. You want to be thinking about, what am I missing? Because something is out of sync in my life. If I'm not growing, if I'm not improving, if the same things, the same results that I'm getting today is what I was getting 3 years ago, we better start asking ourselves some questions.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, it's hard to admit maybe the things that we know aren't exactly um, what we've believed in.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? What we've always thought was the correct, what we always thought was right, um, what we always believed in our heart. You know, maybe if you look deeper into it, because especially lately, where do most people get their information from?
Yeah, where they probably shouldn't, right?
Right. And so, because I have had this discussion with a family member before, and I'm not going to get into the whole Facebook social media debacle or anything else, but we had the discussion, and I said, yes, but this is the negative side of this thing. And she says, well, I never see that on my stuff. She sees all the good stuff, and it comes down to the algorithms and everything else of what she's looking at. And she didn't understand that. She's like, well, how's come this other stuff is not coming up? And I said, because it's not something that you're looking at. And so all of her knowledge on that particular situation was just from what she was seeing off of Facebook. And if we don't take it into our hands to take that step further, to learn, is this true? Is this real? Is this um what I need it to be? Then all your knowledge is just coming from that little bit of a statement, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm talking round and round, but
Well,
um
maybe a little bit. Let's just use an example. I'll use an example out of the industry that I work in agriculture. If you think about what people can absorb in a day, I mean, we're the same people that we were 1,000 years ago. Our minds still process the same way. But the difference is, we're bombarded with so much information. We're given so much stuff, and there's so many different avenues in which you can go and capture information, right? And everybody is fighting for access to the mind of the people. Everybody's fighting for that. But the real question is, the mind of the person. What are they actually looking for? In the industry that we work in agriculture, one of the big trends right now is biology and biology management and this and that and the other. Well, I've seen marketing companies access a product, and that's really what they are. They're marketing companies who access a product and they master market this thing. They know how to get in front of millions and millions of people. But what they're missing is the actual plant physiology. They actually miss certain elements in the agriculture space, but they're master marketers and they'll push product out, product out, product out. Product goes out like crazy, but the actual learning and the growth and the knowing hasn't been there. But there's been this attraction to the mind, right? They've attracted the mind of millions of people because they know how to get in front of millions of people, and that product then ends up not necessarily doing what it could have done or should have done had it gone out to the right people with the right message in the right way and got the right outcome from a plant perspective or from an agricultural perspective instead of just a marketing perspective. And that's what we have to be very careful with is, are we seeing marketing or are we seeing something that's true? Something that's true to the plant, true to agriculture. Are we seeing something that is true, that doesn't break the laws of creation, that doesn't break the laws of nature? We had this discussion the other day, Rebecca, about, is it possible that man can live without woman and woman could live without man? What would our world be like for that? Well, the reality is the law of gender is a natural law. In everything in the world, there's a female aspect and a male aspect. In plants, in trees, in animals, in humans, it's everywhere around us. You have the law of gender in action. The reality is we wouldn't have any idea what that was like. And the same is true with everything that we look at in life. That's why we need to have some kind of a baseline that we evaluate to. And I look at the laws of nature. I look at the laws of the universe. The laws of nature set those foundations for me. And when I read something, I evaluate something, I look at something, I have to ask myself, is this product, is this service, is this idea, will it in any way break any one of the laws of nature? Because if it breaks the law of nature, I'm done. I don't go any further. As soon as the law of nature is broken in the evaluation process, I can't use the product. I can't go with it because that is a problem. You cannot break nature's laws and be successful long term. You can be successful for a little while because you can manipulate, but you cannot break the law of nature long term and be successful. And for me, that's a foundational truth. That's just a foundational element that it just makes it so much easier to define in all the noise of media what is true and what can actually help us grow as a society versus get stuck, if that makes any sense.
Well, it does, but I will have to say, not a lot of people go quite as deep into
Well, no,
finding those
no,
truths
I understand that.
as
What No, I understand. I completely understand what you're saying, Rebecca. But everybody should have some kind of a baseline that they test what they research, that they test what they read, they test what they hear, see on social media. Everybody should have some kind of a baseline that they use. And that's the baseline that I use so that I can decide, what is true, what fits into the big picture of the world that we live in. I look at those things very, very, very carefully, and that's my baseline. And all I'm saying is that everybody should have some kind of a baseline that they go back to that says, "Hey, here's what I stand on. This is the foundation that I can leverage for life, and it's true."
well, and just the industry that we work in, which I did not grow up in the ag industry, but just watching the things that have changed so much, even 50 years ago. But, we that's something that we have talked about is a lot of the things that we hear in the industry is, but this is how we've always done it. This is how we've always done it. This is what I know. But you look back, 100 years ago when they would plant corn, they had corn. They had a kernel of corn they planted. And now you can like customize the corn that you want to plant in your field. You know, you pick from these multiple hybrids that are the weather or work good in the weather in your area, but they also work good in the soil that you have, but then they have 60 days or 90 days. And you went from just planting a kernel to now being able to pick and choose what you want. But for somebody who has spent many years just planting that kernel and knowing I'm going to plant it, this is what I have to do, to now, hey, I've got choices and options and things, what's working best for me. And I think that's the same thing with, like you're saying, is we have all of these options now. We have all of these options of knowledge. What is right for me? What is the truth that I live by to know what knowledge I want?
No, absolutely. And you mentioned the seed industry. I think that's one of the greatest technologies that's ever been created is what has been created in the seed and the seed product itself. However, a lot of the same companies that have built seed products and done a tremendous job in their areas of strength, they've also tried to build precision ag products with it. They've tried to bring other things with that seed product in a space that they truly don't understand near as well. And over the years, we can look back. There's several people on this call that can look back and say, look, those things they were not successful. Those precision elements that a lot of these seed companies tried to build were not successful. And if you really dig deep into why they were not successful, they did break the laws of nature. They really did. They did not align with the law of nature, even though they've got a great seed product that I think is phenomenal. I mean, we've done so much in the seed industry itself. But as soon as a seed product or a trait or a modification in our seed, as soon as it breaks a law of nature, it's going to start to have problems. And in some ways, we see that today, but in other ways, it's still in alignment. But we have to understand that as soon as we start breaking those natural laws, there's going to be an effect. There's going to be an effect. You cannot continue to break natural law for long periods of time and not have a major effect, a negative effect. So it's one of those things that I think we have to learn how to look at as as people, as thinking individuals in a society, have the ability to look at what is going on around us, look at what the great technology has done, then how do we align that the right way to get the right outcomes, the right output, whether it's human beings using technology, whether it's seed products, whether it's precision agriculture, it doesn't matter what it is. It's aligning with those laws of nature in my aspect, in the foundation that I use. That's everything, and it can identify what's going to be successful in 3 or 4 years versus what's going to struggle and fail.
So I think, kind of it's really funny as I'm listening to this is one of the reasons that I love our Monday mind shift calls is how I guess how far down you go and how far down I go with things, and they're way different. But I think one of the biggest things for this, from knowledge to growing or knowledge to learning, is to be open
Mm-hmm.
to hear the difference from what you know to what maybe somebody else knows. For me, that's a little hard sometimes because I like to think that what I know is the right thing, and it might not always be. So I'm growing and learning in that aspect. I'm learning. I have had to learn to open up my thinking, because I see things one way. I have a lot of tunnel vision, and I don't care if it comes to relationships, if it comes to um, what our kids are doing, things like that into the ag field. I mean, it varies and it's everything. I have a hard time seeing other people's perspective. So I think one of the biggest things for me is being open to learn, being open to listen. Um, it may come out at the end of it that what I know is what I know. And it could, but it also could, hey, that's a different way to look at things. That's a new way. That's a better way. And being open to that. So I think that's what that all comes down to. But it listening to you and listening to me, I think we have the same outcome and the same goal. You and I just have very, very different ways of getting there.
Well, that very well could be true. Um, it's kind of interesting as you were talking about that, though. I was thinking about a post I saw on LinkedIn the other day. It was a farmer who's trying to do some massive improvements in his operation. And the one thing that he made comment on is that he was learning to improve his operation by focusing on leadership and communication. I thought that was interesting. He wasn't focused on agronomy. He wasn't focused on, even plant physiology like I just talked about. He found that for his farm to improve, he had to improve his own thinking and his ability to communicate what he was thinking. And I thought, man, that is really powerful. So here's a farmer who's looking at making his farm better, and communication and leadership were his two focus points. That's different. You don't hear that very often. But that's, to me, is an
Mm-mm.
idea of growing, knowing what he already knows. He knows agriculture. Now he's growing. He's learning and he's going to a different level. So we should probably see if there's some thoughts or feedback from our Zoom audience today. Got a good crowd here.
Let us have it, guys. Let's hear it. From knowing to learning.
Well, Kylan, in our industry, it's we're trying to bring new things to people, and agricultural farmers are probably the most conservative people in the world, and especially an older farmer, and it's very much the mindset is that's not how we do it,
Yeah.
and it's very, very, very hard to change that. And they're not open to change because that's not how we do it. And even if you can show to them, prove to them that what they're doing is not actually, benefiting them, they still will tell you that's not how we do it. And I've met farmers who um, what they do under their center pivot, I mean, the yields under their center pivot are actually lower than the yields on the corners where they don't irrigate. And it's like, well, you realize that your practices are actually causing a lower yield. Yeah, but that's not how we do it. And it's only when you get to the younger guys, really. It's not just a generational thing. I've met some very inspirational
Mhm.
older farmers, but just in general, it does frustrate me how they've got a very closed mindset, and it's a rare thing to find somebody who's looking for answers and saying, "Well, I could. I'm sure there's a better way. Nature's changing around me. I need to find, how to adapt." And um, it's really just a comment, but I see it all the time, and it's a very hard thing to deal with. But it's very frustrating when you want to help someone
Mhm.
and they might even acknowledge the problem, but they're not willing to change. And so
So
it's
David, I'm going to make a comment to that. I mean, look at your own life. Look at your own life when there's things that you need to change in your own life and how hard that is. How hard of a struggle is that? I
Mhm.
mean, because in essence, these guys out here, maybe this has worked for them all of these years. It may not be the most efficient. It may not be, it may take them a little longer. They may average out, they have more yield here, but less yield here, but that works for them because it averages out. So to take something, hey, this has worked for me all my life. I've done it the same way and it's worked, and now you're asking me to make a change, and yes, it's most likely going to be a change for the better. But to tell somebody or ask somebody, oh, how would you like to make it better? And in their mind it's very scary, because hey, what if it doesn't work? Or hey, what if it lowers my yield now out there? Those are huge changes, but when you reflect that back into your own life and how personally, when you have to make changes, it's difficult to take everything that you've known and you've learned for all of these years and suddenly go, okay, maybe I'm not doing it the right way.
Sure. And what you just said there, you actually made the comment, you kind of corrected yourself when you tell someone, and it's got to be their decision. It's one thing
Oh, absolutely.
that you've got to lead them to make the decision rather than tell them that they're wrong.
Yeah.
And that is something that I struggle with, but it's because if you can see the answer, you want to tell them what to do, but you've got to actually help them understand, the consequences of their actions. But
Well, and I
um,
think one of the issues, especially in the industry that you guys work in, and this is just being from an outsider's observation, is a lot of these growers have somebody driving down their driveway every other day telling him, "Hey, I've got the new greatest best thing to for your fields, for your farm." And it's trying to make that decision, that's where the knowledge and the learning comes in. Is one of the things that they need to do is understand, okay, does my farm need? What does my farm need that maybe this guy has? Okay, you don't have that. I don't want to talk to you. But I'm sure as a grower and a farmer in this day, and as much stuff is out there to help them, trying to decipher what exactly it is that their farm needs personally. You know, that's just my 2 cents.
sure. And the today's topic is about, being closed off
Knowing.
to
Yeah.
change. Hey, I know what to do. Leave
Yeah.
me alone. And you're trying to help us change out of that mindset. But then how do you help these other guys change out of that mindset? And that's that's a tricky thing sometimes. I mean, I don't think I'm very good at it. I'll say that. So
Well, it all goes back to connecting, you know. It does it.
Well, there's one thing that I might add into this, and David brought it up early, is the generational change. And I know on the Zoom meeting we have, Brittany and Brad are both on here, and I see that as two younger people, younger than me for sure, and both in the agronomy world and doing amazing things in the agronomy space, and they think differently. They're thinking differently about crop production. They're thinking differently about how to get, things into alignment with nature. And both of you, when you were talking there, you mentioned that nature is changing, which is absolutely right. I mean, we're seeing trends. We're seeing trends that cause our industries to adjust and change, and that makes us realize that that's even more important to align with nature as we're seeing these trends, especially drying trends or drought trends, things like this. It's even more important to align with those things and be willing to change and make adjustments. And that's where I get excited about a lot of the people that we do work with, is they're already there in that mindset. They're willing to change. The question is, how do we change and evaluate it? How do we make sure that what we're doing is the right thing to do? The hard part of cropping seasons, and especially here in the Midwest, is you only get one shot per year. And if those changes aren't accurate, it can cost us a lot of money, and it can even cause people, in some cases, to go out of business. So we want to make sure that we're aligning those changes in a way that makes sense to the whole thing. And that's why for me it's alignment with nature. And that is huge. If we can do that, we're going to pretty much always win.
Well, and I think it goes back to, I mean, you look at anybody who's an entrepreneur or in their own business, or even, just maturity wise, you take back of when you started your business and where you are now. I mean, when you went into your business, you had the knowledge of, this is how I'm going to run it, this is how I'm going to do it, this is what I'm going to teach, and over time, that's changed. I mean, that's changed, but I think the bottom line, it goes back to, you have to be open. You have to be open to learning that, because if you're not, you are going to stay right where you're at.
Yeah.
You are going to stay where you're at and not go any further. So you have to be open to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as soon as you don't move further, somebody else is going to move around you. And
Right.
that's the way it is. And it's always interesting for me as I go and talk to different people in the industry. They're like, well, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to wait and see what happens. I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to wait and see what happens with the neighbor. I'm going to let the neighbor do this. I'm going to let this guy do that. I'm going to let this guy do that. And I hear people that's like, okay, okay, that's followership. That's not leadership, right? It's not, we're not stepping forward and taking the bull by the horns. It's like, we're just willing to wait and see. And if it works for them, then I might do it. But the crazy part is, even if they see it work for them, so many people still won't do it. They still won't make that change because change is hard, right? And it is, that learning process is a scary thing, and I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, if we don't do it, we end up not getting where we really want to go. So, well, I just
Now,
noticed
you
the
and I
time. It's
both know,
getting.
I
Go
know,
ahead.
but you and I both know there are people out there who will jump on the bandwagon and absolutely, hey, let's do this, let's go. But they are few and far between. And that is your personality. And mine is the other. Even making an update on my phone. I'm gonna, like, you go ahead and update your phone. I'm gonna see what it does to your phone before I actually do the update on mine. Because you never know. And that, most of the time everything's great and all the updates are awesome, but I know there's been one or two times that you've updated your phone and now I can't use this feature because they updated it, and you eventually get used to it. But yes, I am one of those people. I'll Not on everything. I don't wait a long time, but I do. All right, let's just see how this plays out.
Oh, I know, I know. You do realize though that an update is Apple and Android, and anytime you do an update,
That's a whole nother.
it's their way of saying, "Hey, your phone sucks. It's broken. Your phone is broken. Time
It's
for
not,
an
but it's
update."
not though. How many people still have an iPhone 8 that works perfectly fine
Oh, I
and
know.
they can
That's a
do
whole nother
everything that
discussion. Okay.
I
All right.
know that's a
All
whole
right.
nother can of worms.
Okay. What do you
Anyway,
want to, let's wrap this up. We've had a great audience here this morning, so go ahead and wrap it up, Rebecca.
yes, I'm going to read Britt's comment right before. Majority of growers have no clue what if they need to change or alter anything. That's very true. That's very true. And so I think trying to get over that, you know, trying to, you guys have your work cut out for you trying to explain that. I will say, because if they don't know what they don't know, they don't know what they need to change. So, so we're signing off. I'll leave it with, just be open to hearing, open to learning, open to maybe not knowing that maybe what you think is not exactly what you should know.
Yep. And I'm going to put a plug in for you. I know you are still putting together your final touches on your next mastermind, but it is
I know.
developing the leader within you, developing the leader within you. Get in there, go see that, become a part of that, because until you grow in here, you're not going to grow out there. You've got to grow in here before you grow out there. And if you grow out there faster than you grow in here, it'll implode on you. You got to be growing in here if you're going to expect to grow out there. So let's go do it. Let's go get it big, join the mastermind, and be a part of that. That's my little bit for this morning. Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
for joining
We'll
us
see
this
y'all
morning.
later. Bye.
We'll see you next week. Bye.